Okay, started the recording a teeny bit late. We talked about the steps for simplifying rational expressions. You're factoring numerator, denominator. The strange thing is there are some values that would make the denominator 0, and we talked about the fact that you cannot divide by 0. So we have to state which values you cannot use for x. So we could plug in any number except the values that would make the denominator 0. And so we've written the directions, and we're going to write the first example, and now we're going to follow our steps. Step 1 says to do what? All right, so this is a binomial. It's not a perfect square minus a perfect square. So can we pull a greatest common factor out of that?
Yes.
What is it?
It's 5. With 3. No, it's 3.
It's 3, right? So 3 will come out of this term, and 3 will come out. So let's factor that. 3 times what gives me 3n?
1.
1n, right? 1n. So n. And it's minus. And 3 times what gives me 15? 5, that's right. So now 3 times n is 3n. Minus 3 times 5 is 15, so now we know we have an equivalent expression here. We'll put it over now. Can't really, 12 is a constant, so I'm just going to write that here. Okay? I could factor it, because I am going to need to cancel it, but we're not going to cancel yet, because the first thing we want to do is want to make sure, since this is the first one we're doing, we want to make sure, are there any values that if we plug them in for n, that'll make the denominator 0? Where's the n? Is it n in the numerator or denominator? There's only an n in the numerator in this one, so there's no excluded values here. So after we determined and stated excluded values, and there are no excluded values because you only have an excluded value if you have a variable in the denominator, in the factors in the denominator. Okay? So now, the last step, step 4, says cancel common factors. That means in the numerator and denominator. So 3 and 12 have a common factor. What's that common factor? 4. No, 4 is not a factor of 3, right? Is 3 a factor of itself? Yes. So 3 comes out of 3 1 time. 3 comes out of 12 4 times. So our simplified answer here is n minus 5 over 4. That's it. That's your final answer.
What the heck? So all we doing is just finding the factor, though.
All right. So this one, there's no addition or subtraction. So go ahead and write example 2. Do you have ones like this on your homework? I can't remember.
No. We don't.
Alright, we're going to do it anyway. Alright. So there's no adding and subtracting in here, so we could break this down to factors and factor, but there's not one way to factor it. So we don't have to factor yet. What we're going to look at and see what value, if we plug it in for 0, would make this denominator 0. So remember, 36t times 6, that's 36 times t, 4, 5, 6. Any number I could plug in for t that would make this denominator 0. 6 would not make it 0. What do you think, Jacob? Is there a number you can plug in?
32.
What is the one number? If you multiply something by this number, you get 0.
0.
Right, that's what it is. The only number that will give you 0 in this kind of expression is 0. So we're going to say our excluded value is 0. So when t is 0, 0 to the 6th power is 0. 0 times 36 is 0, right? And now we're going to simplify. So
how do you know 0?
This is the denominator, does that make sense? 36 to the 6th power, right? So, there's only one thing that you plug in if you're multiplying something by something that gives you 0. The only way to get 0 is if you multiply by 0. Now, if you're subtracting or adding, you can add a positive or a negative, right? So the only way to multiply or divide and get 0 is to, well, multiply is to multiply by 0. You can't divide by 0.
Right.
Okay? So our only option is, the only way to get 0 is to multiply by 0. So since we're only multiplying here, the only operation in that denominator is multiplication. The only possible value that would make the denominator 0 is 0. So now we're going to simplify. So we're going to simplify the coefficients, 12 and 36. What's the biggest common factor of 12 and 36? 12, right? 12 times 3 is 36, 1 times 12 is 12. So 12 comes out of that 1 time, comes out of that 3 times. Now we learn how to simplify variable expressions with the same base, different exponents, we just subtract them if we're dividing, right? So this would be 8 minus 6. That's going to simplify to t to the 2nd power. So it's 1 times t to the 2nd power over 3 with an excluded value of 0. So this has to be your entire answer.
For sure.
Do sample 3. Y plus 2 over y squared minus 4. Step 1 says to do what?
Factor in the numerator.
Back to the numerator. So this is y plus 2. A binomial, the coefficient here is 1 and it's a 2. Can we factor anything out of y plus 2?
No, yeah, no.
Yep, 1, you're right, 1, but we don't ever factor 1 out because we just use the same thing. So now, what about y squared minus 4?
Yeah.
So look at the board. We did one of those on the board before we turned on the recording. X squared minus 4, perfect square minus a perfect square is going to factor into 2 identical binomials.
It's
They're going to be exactly the same, except one's going to be plus and one's going to be minus. Yes, and now you take the square root of this, 2 and 2.
Yeah, we smart.
All right? What's the next step?
Find the statement, the excluded value.
And how do we do that?
By setting any value to the variable equals to 0 or solving.
Okay, so there's 2 factors. Y plus 2 times y minus 2. So it's y plus 2 equals 0, and y minus 2 equals 0. So guess what? Now we're going to have 2 excluded values here. Subtract 2. So one of our excluded values is negative 2, as 2, and one is positive 2. So those are our excluded values. We're going to exclude negative 2 and 2. You can't use negative 2 and 2 here because that would make one of these factors 0. 2 minus 2 is 0. 0 times anything is 0. You can't have a 0 in the denominator. So now the last step is to what?
Cancel the common factor.
Right. So y plus 2 and y plus 2 are common factors in the top and the bottom. Anything divided by itself equals what? 1. Right. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Negative 8 divided by negative 8 is 1. Y plus 2 divided by y plus 2 is 1. So we don't have anything else in the numerator, so our numerator is 1. divided by y minus 2, we have to exclude negative 2 and positive 2. So you see, you can't do the excluded values before you simplify. I'm sorry, after you have to do the excluded values before you simplify, because if we had not, we'd only have positive 2 here, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let's do number 4.
Are we gonna be able to do some of our homework this week?
No, let's see, you don't have that as homework, so.
That's only 11 problems.
What's step 1?
Factor the numerator.
Okay, so this is a binomial with subtraction here. The only way to factor this into two binomials is it's a perfect square minus a perfect square.
Yeah, 50.
Yep. Is that a difference in squares in the numerator too, Barry? Is that a perfect square minus a perfect square? No. Can we pull out a greatest common factor?
Yes.
What would it be?
5.
5. Yeah, 15 is not a factor of 50, but 5 is a factor of both. So that's going to be 3a minus 10. Now this is a binomial plus a constant. We can never factor that into two binomials. What's the most common factor, or the biggest common factor here?
Hold on.
What is 10 and 35? Yeah, 5 is the biggest one. So 5 times 2a plus 5 times 7 is 35. So this is step 1. Step 2. What's step 3?
Find and state the excluded values by setting any factor with a variable equal to 2.
Nice. All right, so now we're going to find our excluded values. So 5 is a factor, but it doesn't have a variable. All right, so we're going to take the 2a plus 7 and set it equal to 0 and solve.
2a. That'd be negative 7.
And so the final answer is negative 7 halves. So we're going to exclude negative 7 halves. But we don't have our final answer yet. What's our last step?
Cancel common factor.
And the only common factor here is 5. So our final answer would be 3a minus 10 divided by 2a plus 7 with an excluded value of negative 7 halves. That's the only thing that if you plug it into this expression, it would give you a denominator of 0. So you don't appear to be writing what we're writing, honey. Alright, I'm going to look through these others. I'm going to look through your homework and then we're going to look through others and see what we got. You've done examples of those. Not exactly of those. We don't do yours. Let's look for one like yours. Let's see. That one?
Can you number 26, like that one? With the 3s?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably got 3 at the top and you flip them off. Yeah, on the front up there, top.
Alright, let me see if I can find it.
I think I need 26 for all of them. Oh yeah, never mind, let me.
I'm not going to do yours for you. But let's do one like yours. Why don't y'all get your homework out while I'm looking for another example, and while y'all try to do number 4. Try to do number 4. We've got and number 6. Hint, the denominator number 4 is a difference in squares. Perfect square minus perfect square, so it gets factored kind of like that one. Number 6, the denominator looks exactly like that one instead of a b, it's an x. So try 4 and 6. 4 and 6. Everybody right now, Shayla Davis, you're trying to work 4 and 6. I need you to stop, guys.
I'm so confused. X.
You're not trying it. Hey, make sure you copy that on your worksheet, number 4, the project. That's part of your homework, okay? So number 2 and number 4, I asked you to work. That's your homework. That's what worked on your worksheet.
I'm stuck. I'm a little too stressed right now.
Okay. All right, we'll do number we'll do number 4 together real quick. DePaul can help me because he's already finished it. So number 4, right now on your worksheet, this is problem number 4. We're doing it together. X plus 1 divided by x squared minus 1. Factor the first, but there's nothing to factor out of that binomial. I'll put parentheses around it though in case I can cancel it. This is a perfect square minus a perfect square, like our x squared minus 4 that we did on the board, and like our y squared minus 4 we did in our notes. So, what's it going to factor into? So remember, it's 2 binomials that look exactly the same. The square root of this goes in both first spots. The square root of this goes in both second spots, and it's always 1 plus and 1 minus. This is where we find our excluded values. Both of these factors have an x in it, so we set them equal to 0 and solve. So we know our excluded values are negative and positive 1. So now I can cancel any like factors in the numerator and denominator. X plus 1 divided by x plus 1 simplifies to 1. So 1 in the numerator. I have x minus 1 left in the denominator. So I'm going to state my excluded values. We're going to exclude, 2 C's is not right. We're going to exclude negative 1 and 1. And that's your final answer. Okay?
Okay, I get it now.
Good. All right, let's look at one that looks like your number. See if I've got one that looks like your number 10. Because it's got a cube in it. We don't normally work with cubes when they're in more than one term. So let's see. I thought I had another one here. Okay. Let's look at, now this is going in your notes, so we're back on your notes. So I think, is this example 4 or 5?
Example 5.
Okay, example 5. M cubed plus 9m all over 6m squared minus 3m. So this is now in your worksheet. This is part of your notes again. Can we factor anything out of the numerator?
Yeah.
What can we factor? Good. So that would be m squared plus 9, right? Because m times m squared, that's a 1, so you add those exponents. M cubed, m times 9 is 9m. What about 6m squared minus 3m? What do we got? What can we take out of both of those? We can take an m. Is there a factor out of the coefficient we can take? 3. So we can factor out a 3m. So that would be m minus 3, because 3m times m, oh, it's 2m. 3m times 2m is 6m squared. Remember how you do that. 3m times what will give you 6m squared? 3 times 2 is 6. M squared times, ooh, that's squared. Oh yeah, negative 1, my bad. Yeah, negative 1 down there. I'm getting my numerators and yes, minus 1. So we factored, you did step 1 and step 2. Step 3 is find our excluded values. So now both of our factors have a variable in it. So this one doesn't have a plus or minus, but we still set it equal to 0. And then 2 minus 1 equals 0. So to solve this, you just divide by 3. We can divide 0 by 3. We just can't put 0 in the bottom, right? Right. So m is 0. That's one excluded value. I'm going to add 1 here, and we're going to divide both sides by 2. So our other excluded value is 1/2. So our excluded value, we're going to exclude 0 and positive 1/2. And what can we simplify out of here? This won't factor anymore, but how about our m's? Can we factor cancel our m's out?
Yeah.
We can. M divided by m is 1. So 1 times m squared plus 9, we're just going to write m squared plus 9. Over, now we can't forget the 3 here. 3 times 2m minus 1. And you can multiply that back. I'll let you know if we want to do that on the test or not. But that's fine with me right there. So if it has a cube in it, this particular example, that's how you would do it. Your homework, let's see, is very similar to that. All right, let's look at the word one like your word problem. Not exactly like it, but it's like it. All right, so this is like the word problem on your assignment, so you want to be paying attention. The area of a rectangle is x squared plus 6x minus 16. Its width is x minus 2. What is a simplified expression for its length? So here's what I want you to write. Example 6. And I want you to write everything I underline, and you don't have to write the other part.
Can Yeah, I can see it too, babe.
And we're going to say, what is the length? What is its length? And then I'll cut out some words for you to write there. Alright, so we're going to write the problem, and now we're starting to work it here. So we're going to draw a picture. This is our rectangle. We're going to write our area and then side. And remind ourselves that the formula for the area of a rectangle is the length times the width. So if we know the width and we know the area, I'll wait, I'm going to let y'all catch up with me. You caught up? Alright, so in this example, we know the area and we know the width. So we're going to solve this. We're going to divide both sides by W. And now we know that our length equals the area divided by the width. It's a big L. So for this problem, we're going to plug into this. So because we need to know what is the length, we're going to say our length is, and basically it's going to be this, we're simplifying this rational expression. So we're going to put the area up top, which is x squared plus 6x minus 16, divided by the width. Good. Now we're going to use our steps that we just learned to simplify this. The first step is to factor the numerator. So this is a trinomial. It has an a of 1. Right, we learned how to factor these when we used our triangle here. Almost our x here. Put negative 16 in the top. Positive 6 to the middle term in the middle. And we're looking for the factors of 16 that will equal a positive 6. So what times what? So one's going to be positive and one's going to be negative. So the only way to get a negative. DePaul? Negative 8 plus positive 2 would give us negative 6. Very good. Positive 8 and negative 2. So now it's going to be 2 parentheses, always x times x, that's how we get x squared, but now it's going to be plus 8 and minus 2. Now, we would factor the denominator if we could. Is there anything we can factor out of the denominator?
Yes. Wait, no.
Nope, just 1, so that one doesn't count. So we're going to put x minus 2 here. Now, in our steps, what comes next? We factor the numerator. We tried to factor the denominator and couldn't. What's our next step?
Find and state the
Excluded values.
Factor the value equal to 0 and solve it.
Good. X minus 2 equals 0. That's the only factor on the bottom. Add 2 to both sides. X equals 2. So we're going to exclude 2. Now what are we doing?
No, we put in for...
Put in parentheses, and step 4 says to do what?
Cancel.
Cancel any common factors. So x minus 2 and x minus 2. So it simplifies to x plus 8. X So our length is x plus 8, but we have to exclude 2. That means we cannot plug in 2 for 8. We're going to exclude 2. I'm sorry, 2 for x. And that's your final answer. So you have 2 of those on your homework. Remember, you're just dividing area divided by the width to get the length, area divided by the length to get the width.
Hold on, let me write it down.
All right, and we'll do one where we have another trinomial. All right. Let's do this one. Do we have time to do one more?
Yeah. No. It depends on student. Pick something.
Well, I wanted to do something hard so you have an example for the hard ones in the back, but it's just factoring.
Let's do the hard one. Yeah, man, let's do it. Let's do it. 26. Let's do it. Go hard. 26 means 11. You got.
All right, I'm not sure we have enough time, but we'll get it started. So, we're simplifying and stating our any excluded values. We're going to factor the numerator. Now, this has an a greater than 1, so this is when we're going to have to split the middle term and then factor by grouping. Okay? So, a times c, I don't know, 42 times 5 is 210.
Yeah.
So we're going to have, we are going to use our x, but it's going to be a little bit different. 210, positive 210, and our middle numbers need to be negative 41, so they'll both be negative, our factors will be. So let's see, let's do 21 divided by, say it again, 6 and 35, so divided by 6 is 35. Yay, Jacob Strunk. 36 and 6. So negative 36 and negative 6, if you multiply those together, you get a positive 210. So now we are going to rewrite this. And these are not our factors. Now we're splitting the middle term. So 5x squared minus 6x minus 36x plus 42. You guys did pretty good on this one. What do you do next? This is factor by grouping. We're going to split into 2 groups. Find our greatest common factor of both groups. What's the greatest common factor here? 1x, right? So it's going to be x, and what's the greatest common factor here?
6.
And if this is negative, it's going to be negative 6, right? So it's going to be one of our factors. Now our other factor, remember how we found it?
Yeah. We divided, right? Oh, no, we divided by x. No, divided by 6.
Divide by x. Nope, we divided by this. Yeah. X divided by x. So that's going to be 5x minus, that doesn't look right.
Minus 1.
6 will come out of that. 6 times 6 will come out of that. 6 will come out of both of that. What's that, Jacob? What did we do wrong? Six times 6, 7 times. So 6 is the greatest, oh wait, is 6 the greatest common factor? Yeah. 1 time, 2 times 21, 3 times, what's 42 divided by 3? Ooh, 14, yeah, I think 6 is the biggest one. 6 and 7, yeah. So this would be x minus 6, that is, oh, I put a 6 there. Why did I put a 6 there? I'm so crazy. My bad. It's 6. So this is x minus 6 times 5x minus 6 all over x squared minus 49. We're going to do our excluded values. I feel like that doesn't look right. I'm going to check it when y'all leave today. This factors into x plus 7 times x minus 7. This is one of those perfect squares. Fix that. X plus 7 times x minus 7. So we're going to subtract, we're going to set it equal to 0. Subtract and subtract. One of the excluded values is going to be negative 7. Add and add. And 7. And right now it looks like there's nothing that can simplify from there. But I feel like I messed up. Let's see, that's 5x squared minus 6x minus 30x. Something is amiss. Anywho, the process is right. I messed that part up, I think, but that's all right. I'll fix it and show you the correction for it tomorrow, but the process, we know, we've learned how to factor by grouping and just cancel any parts. This is the hardest part, making sure we remember to find our excluded values first.